Hello everyone, greetings and salutations. Welcome to the weekly Hack.com webinar. My name is Sam Borgi, Chief Editor to Hacked. Wherever you may be, we're very happy to have you joining us this Friday or early Saturday for another weekly installment of our recap in the cryptocurrency market as well as the broader financial markets. Once again, I'm Sam. You've probably seen me a lot on Workplace as well as the Hack.com website. Ever have any questions, please reach me at sam@hack.com. The email volumes have been a little bit crazy as of late, so I apologize if I've been late, but that's how you can reach me, and we can chat if you have any other questions or comments about the cryptocurrency market or about the services that we offer at Hacked. So the agenda for today, as we usually have it on our weekly series here, we want to give you a weekly recap of the crypto market, focusing, of course, on Bitcoin and the altcoins. We then, of course, want to take a look at what's going on at Hacked. What are some of the articles or pieces or new developments that is happening on what is quickly becoming one of the biggest cryptocurrency resources on the planet. We then want to draw your attention to what you can expect next week, or what are some of the major themes that could unfold next week based on our view of the market over the last 5 or 6 days. So let's start it. Let's begin right away here with the crypto market. Obviously, the big news this week, especially on Thursday, was the news out of South Korea that Seoul may be considering new regulations on cryptocurrencies. Of course, that's not what the mainstream media reported. The MSM pretty much said, South Korea will be banning cryptocurrencies, or we're at the cusp of a fresh blanket ban on cryptocurrencies in South Korea. Exchanges are going to be shut down, yada, yada, yada. None of that is true. A lot of that is BS. The only thing South Korea is doing right now is looking at new ways to stem or stamp out speculation in the market. So they're really targeting anonymous trading accounts. And for the time being, we know that there's a freeze on all new account signups in South Korea. So contrary to what you might have heard, South Korea is not banning cryptocurrency exchanges. It is looking at a new mechanism for regulating the market. How that unfolds, we're going to see in the next few weeks probably, but it's not a blanket ban on cryptocurrency trading. So please, bear with us, as we explain that. So in that sense, the sell-off that we saw on Thursday was overdone, but the market has since recovered quite a bit, and we are looking at a global market cap that is still approaching the $750 billion mark. So overall, things have kind of consolidated, but you should expect some pullback or some volatility now as investors speculate about what can happen in South Korea. Of course, South Korea has emerged as one of the centers for cryptocurrency trading on the planet. In that vein, we know Bitcoin fell about 20% this week to test $13,000. Bitcoin was declining even before the South Korea shakeup happened. I wouldn't necessarily say that the fundamentals of Bitcoin have changed, but we have seen a pullback from the extremely exuberant levels that we saw before Christmas. We all know that a lot more money is flowing into the altcoin market right now. So one of the things that's happened is Bitcoin's value has dropped as a result. We did briefly test 13K earlier in the week. Ripple, of course, also sold off sharply. According to barchart.com, it was last down 21% to $2. It fell below that level earlier in the week as well. Ethereum had a volatile week, but more or less finished firmly higher, about 30% higher. We saw it surge to new record highs in the middle of the week. It settled well off those highs on Friday, but overall, Ethereum fared much better than some of its chief competitors. And in that vein, Ethereum is actually now the number 2 cryptocurrency again, behind Bitcoin. Ripple moved into that spot, I believe it was last week or very recently. Ethereum is back in that spot now. Interestingly enough, Ripple only needs to be traded at $6 to $7, between $6 and $7 for it to become the world's biggest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap, even outpacing Bitcoin in that respect. So keep your eye on Ripple and what could transpire over the next year or so. It's going to be a very interesting year for XRP. Here's the charts. Last I checked, I put this chart together, I would say about a half hour to an hour ago. Bitcoin was around 13,800. You see the general downtrend in the market that we've seen over the past week. Ethereum, as I mentioned, the general trend was up this week, but you see it's well off its peak above, I would say, 1370. So overall, Ethereum has broken out this year. It's one of the biggest stories so far of the crypto market. As we continue with the weekly overview, of course, we always like to draw your attention to the crypto market highlights of the past 5 or 6 days. The total market cap for all cryptos fell by 55 billion on a week-to-week basis. It is now at around 722 billion. It was down, as I mentioned earlier, in the 620 range following the news out of South Korea. Bitcoin's share of the market is actually at a record low of about 32.7% according to CoinMarketCap. This has been one of the biggest stories of the year. We've seen Bitcoin's share gradually decline as more money flows into the altcoin universe. In that vein, there are 43 coins now valued at $1 billion or more out of a total of 1427. And this number is rising all the time. You're all familiar with ICOs, initial coin offerings. How many ICOs are being issued a week now? There's a ton. So this number is going to continue to expand until maybe we see some kind of regulatory pushback on ICOs. And here's a chart illustrating to you the global cryptocurrency market, how it evolved this week. We peaked around here. We peaked, I think it was like 820 to 830 billion. So the market cap seems to be inching closer and closer toward the $1 trillion mark. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road if we get there. That was cryptocurrencies. We want to draw our attention now to stocks. What a week it was for the U.S. equity indexes. The bull market really has not stopped. You take a look here at the chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Look at the RSI. The RSI is at 86. The bulls have been absolutely dominating everything on Wall Street. We saw another week of record-setting gains for the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. Each of them climbed, and they hit record highs in 4 of the last 5 sessions. I think the S&P has been at record highs every session this year except one. The Dow settled above 25,800 this week. The indexes since January 1st or since January 2nd are up between 4.2 and 5.2%. There's a lot of bullishness now around earnings. We are expecting another solid quarter of earnings growth. According to FactSet, which is a financial research firm, earnings will grow at a blended earnings rate of around 10.2% year over year. So we are expecting earnings of the S&P 500 to rise over 10%. Of course, that's on a year over year basis. So earnings have been very strong, but we have to keep in mind that we just got out of a really bad earnings recession last year. We emerged from the depths of that. So yeah, earnings are good, but keep in mind we're comparing them to a relatively low point for stocks on the earnings front since the recession. Interesting to note the volatility index as measured by the VIX. I love the VIX. It's risen in 6 of the last 7 sessions. Usually this would be a cause for speculation. It really isn't this time, but I just wanted to draw your attention to it. Typically, volatility rises when the S&P 500 is declining. There's an inverse relationship between the VIX and the S&P. We haven't really seen that this week as volatility rebounded from near record lows. We came within a half a point of a record low on the volatility gauge last week. It's only around 10, which is about half the historical average. So volatility remains very tame, but nevertheless, the fact that it's going up while stocks are rising is something to note. Of course, part of the weekly recap that I like to do is to give you just a lowdown on what's happening on hack.com, some of the announcements that we have or some of the developments. As I mentioned to all of you last week, we are hiring full-time cryptocurrency research analyst as well as an ICO researcher and writer. If you are interested, please send your application to Jonas. His email is right there. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, you need to have a background in cryptocurrency or the financial markets. You have to be a solid researcher, a great writer. If that's you, please send us a message with your application. The most read articles of the week, the first one was Spectre and Meltdown Madness from one of our newer writers that got very good exposure this week. The Tron piece that we did on Chinese Netflix also did very, very well. We released that one, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. I know there was a comment there about how, you released it a little bit later. Well, we needed some time to really analyze the market. And of course, a lot of our members wanted to see an article on Chinese Netflix, so we produced one. Essentially, earlier we were just monitoring how it was going to go, whether or not the deal was going to be fulfilled. And as it did, Tron is gaining a lot of exposure. Cryptocurrencies update, Bloody Monday was another popular one. Why investors should pay attention to Tron, another Tron article. And the ICO analysis of B token also cracked the top 5. Next week, we're going to draw our attention, of course, to the South Korean regulation. Look at how that development is going to unfold. Wall Street earnings season is underway. It started this week. We saw JP Morgan this week report pretty good earnings. Next week, we're going to see a lot more on the corporate earnings front. And as we continue on this month, Bitcoin ETFs were actually derailed by the SEC. If you all recall, there were several filings to list Bitcoin futures ETFs. The SEC has pushed back on that, citing liquidity and safety concerns. So the Bitcoin ETF remains elusive. I believe it's eventually going to happen, but there is some concern that the SEC has. So keep your eye on that one. Trump's infrastructure spending program, which of course was the key catalyst, or one of the key catalysts to his presidency. The blueprint is coming very soon. And we know that Trump will prioritize infrastructure in the forthcoming State of the Union address. So that's something to bear in mind. Oil also hit $70 a barrel. We're talking, of course, about Brent, which is traded on London's ICE Futures Exchange. It hit $70 a barrel this week as the crude rally continues. How sustainable is it? I guess it's proving itself over the past several months. We will be keeping our eye on the oil markets. That covers it, everyone. That was the weekly recap. We really hope that you enjoyed it. Again, you can catch us next week, same time, on our YouTube channel as well as on our hack.com webpage. Thank you so much for your attention. Have a great weekend and chat soon.